starts now.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Dave Anthony. ISIS has claimed responsibility for last night's concert bombing in England. President Trump calls the terrorist an evil loser in life.
Heinous attack upon humanity.
He says civilized nations must unite to
obliterate this evil ideology and protect and defend our citizens and people of the world.
Now that bomb went off as the concert was letting out. 22 people were killed, 59 injured. British Prime Minister Theresa May calls it sickening cowardice.
Deliberately targeting innocent, defenseless children and young people.
An 18-year-old concert goer who had tweeted a pic of herself with Ariana Grande before the show was the first victim ID'd in Manchester, where Fox's Simon Owen is live.
Dave, the attacker was killed in the bombing. Police say a 3-year-old man in Manchester in connection with the attack. His identity hasn't been released. Nick Hayward was here last night waiting to collect his daughter.
She was in the concert, she was in the hall when the bomb went off, and I was outside waiting to meet her, but I was literally just diagonally opposite, so just over the other side of the venue from where the actual explosion was. So I just heard a really loud bang, and I kind of like felt the sound go through me.
He was fortunate. He was reunited with his child. Many other families, though, much less fortunate. Dave?
Simon, the president made his remarks at the Israel Museum after visiting a Holocaust memorial. Earlier in the West Bank, he talked to Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, saying if the two sides can work out a peace deal,
it will begin a process of peace all throughout the Middle East.
The president will soon head to Rome next. The U.S. has gone on the attack in Yemen, a ground and air assault on a compound with links to al-Qaeda. U.S. Central Command says at least 7 militants were killed, but officials tell Fox the goal of the raid was to get more laptops and intel on al-Qaeda. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
The Sea-Doo Ready to Ride sales event is here. Shop now and get a Sea-Doo at a great price. As America's #1 selling watercraft, Sea-Doo delivers on-water suspension for a safe and exhilarating ride. Right now, save up to $500 on select 2016 models. Rip up the waves this summer at an affordable price. Get ready to ride at your local Sea-Doo dealer. Visit Hamilton Yamaha in Trenton. Offer ends soon. Restrictions may apply. See dealer for details.
Summer involves a lot of driving, to camp, to work, to soccer, back home to grab what they forgot, and then back to soccer again. So wouldn't you like to know your car is up for it? Enter Hum by Verizon. Now you can check your car's health from your phone with vehicle diagnostics, drive with more peace of mind thanks to 24/7 emergency assistance, and let the kids stream and game on the go with your car's own Wi-Fi hotspot. Get Hum and get where you're going. Learn more at hum.com. Verizon Wi-Fi available on HumX only. Data usage applies. Coverage not available everywhere. Visit vzw.com for availability.
A night for which Ariana Grande fans had waited weeks ends in blood and terror after an explosion tore through the foyer of the Manchester Arena moments after Grande left the stage. At least 22 concertgoers have been killed. Dozens of others were injured. Many of them are children. Lawsuits have been filed to block the $300 million State House renovation project, but Governor Christie is vowing it will move forward. During last night's Ask the Governor program, Christie said the deal to renovate the building is legal and desperately needed because the structure is crumbling.
That's why we boarded up a bunch of those windows, because they were going to fall out and hit pedestrians below, potentially. I mean, this is the condition of a tenement building.
Christie is also predicting the next governor of the state will wind up celebrating the grand reopening of the State House when it's completed in 2021. A restaurant in Galloway confirms they have fired an employee who wrote pigs on a police officer's receipt. Photos of the receipt made the rounds on social media after the officer visited Romanelli's Garden Cafe. The owner would not identify the worker, but says that worker has been terminated. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
A day in the life of James was being trapped in that cycle. It was like the hamster running on a wheel. I got hurt in high school playing football, and I was prescribed a prescription painkiller. I was the number 6 recruited football player in the nation. When I went to college, it went to the point that after the prescription ran out, I tried to find other ways to get it. That is when I was introduced to heroin. For me, bottom was sitting in the prison cell and just realizing where the last 20 plus years of my life has went. And just know I didn't want to feel that pain anymore. If I didn't get help, I'll probably be either dead or in jail again. I got help. You can too. Help is within reach. I'm evidence.
This is Governor Chris Christie. If you're struggling with addiction, supporting someone who is, or just don't know where else to turn, help is just a call or a click away. Call 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. Don't suffer. Don't wait. 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. The road to recovery starts now.
We're burning off pockets of fog across New Jersey this morning. Clouds will win the sky today, but at least we'll enjoy mild temperatures on either side of 70 degrees. Any raindrops should hold off until late afternoon at the earliest, but a batch of rain will push through tonight, mainly from Mercer and Monmouth counties on south, lows in the mid-50s, and we'll wrap up those showers tomorrow morning before drying out with breaks of sun tomorrow afternoon. Highs in the lower to mid-70s, we'll see 60s along the coast tomorrow. Thursday will be wet, rain likely throughout the day, and could be heavy at times. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
6 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. It's Hurley in the Morning with Chuck Malamut, our official exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program for the past 26 years. Chuck is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. To reach Chuck and his team for all of your financial planning needs, simply call 609-383-2010. And the program that you're about to listen to is presented by Chuck, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this program are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. Chuck, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Harry. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chuck.
PK.
You got to say the
No, because see what happened. If you forgot this discussion that we had prior to the run-up of the selection process, and we bannered back and forth as to where I thought you would land, and it's pretty accurate. I think I got the number right.
You did say 60, didn't you?
I did say 60.
He was the one.
So we can add that to the list of what the Conover family owes.
Well, you get something for that too.
The Malamut Group.
You get something for that.
We'll just add another 2 on top of that. So we're up to about.
Just added debt.
So we're
to
at.
Nancy.
Well, look, the budget deficit keeps growing. You know, we heard about that this morning.
Yes.
I think you guys chatted about that, and interest piles on top of interest. And Kirk, hopefully you get home safe and sound, and you can get busy. And I'll see you next Tuesday, and hopefully
keep the economy going. That's right.
And hopefully. And just don't forget us.
Nobody can call out sick anymore. It's 1 for 1 now. Every person that works cannot call out sick.
I understand that.
It's
yes.
1 for 1, makers and takers.
So unfortunately, Harry, you and Kirk were on live and flipping through, and while you're on break, and I had the
PBS.
No, I was listening to Fox, actually, Fox Business, and it was on Fox, Bloomberg, and CNBC. The president's talk in Israel, absolutely magnificent.
That's what my twin brother told me, Chuck. He said he brought the house down.
It was. I wish I'd planned it better and had the opportunity to listen. I'm sure we can get.
I have to say, this has been a truly historic foreign nation swing that he has done.
You know, we chatted about this, our team, yesterday. It was nice because we were able to do what do our work as we normally do, and you didn't have those outside influences of trying to get you off track, and that basically being the media. Because the president was traveling, what didn't create a lot of controversy until last night when the budget, proposed budget was released. And I just find it remarkable, Harry, how you can release, I don't know how many pages the budget is. It's got to be thousands of pages.
Yeah, it's huge.
How can they take this so very, very quickly and get it down to 5, 7, 10 bullet points? It just...
Because
for the life of me, I don't understand it.
I'm going to tell you, because they don't just drop it cold. They have it's still a lot of pages, but it's obviously many less than the full document. They sort of have a explanation of the budget. For example, the Office of Management and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney clearly delineated that there would be cuts to poverty programs. He said where it would come from. He said that it would come from tightening the eligibility for the programs in the first place, because we're obviously paying benefits to people who are not eligible to receive the benefits. So anywhere that you can tighten that, whether it's fraud or if it's mistakes in overpaying, are going to be done. They're going to add work requirements. If this is somebody that's able-bodied, much like the Republicans did when they had the majority in both houses when Bill Clinton was president, there became a work component to welfare. Now, I know the other party is going to go crazy, but this is what's going to be part of this. And they're going to shift more of the financial burden to the states. They also released in this little sort of but this little companion description of the lengthier budget, the fact that there would be $2.6 billion for improved border security, including $1.6 billion for the president's physical wall that he wants to do on the Mexican border, and that there would be $25 billion for family paid leave, which is something that First Daughter Ivanka Trump has been championing. So these are things that they're admitting are in there. Having said that, and Kirk agreed with me, Chuck, I believe the president's budget is dead on arrival.
Harry, I unfortunately, I think I agree with you.
Well,
here.
they're all running next year. There's no way they're going to do certain cuts because, when Paul Ryan tried several years ago, you might remember this, Chuck, he brought out a plan. Now, imagine this. Imagine when I was reporting to you 30 years ago. If I said, hey, Chuck, all right, I'll get you my budget, and, yeah, it'll be balanced. My plan is to balance it in 30 years. What would you have said to me, Chuck?
I think I would have laughed at you, Harry.
Yeah. I would have probably had a pink slip, and I would have been, in the unemployment line, never saying that kind of thing again to my boss. Paul Ryan said, I want to balance the budget in 30 years. They actually took and dressed up somebody like an elder granny, put her in a wheelchair, and threw her off a cliff. That was asking to balance the budget in 30 years. This plan, Chuck, which they're calling, quote unquote, and this is not political, this is a financial discussion, quote unquote, a new foundation for American greatness, and it is the president's 10-year plan to balance the budget, and it will be done through a mix of cuts in certain programs that the president believes we're overspending, and that there are areas that efficiencies can be achieved. And the media is also pounding on the fact that the anticipated growth is too ambitious. So they don't like the cuts, and they also don't believe we can grow at a certain pace.
It's interesting, Harry, because there's an ongoing debate about GDP and how we grow and when we grow and can we get to that magical 3% number. And it just seems that, unfortunately, in spite of all the good that we have seen of late in the equity or stock markets in particular, with not only earnings but revenues beating projections, and year-over-year comps are good as well, just can't seem to get out of our own way. And I think a lot of that is attributable to what you just said.
Well, here's what I believe, Chuck. I believe if we continued to do what we were doing, we were perennially, forever, held down, and we would not experience 3% and beyond growth. If we change the philosophy, and if we lower the corporate tax rates, and we lower the personal taxes, and if we do a number of these things that the president is proffering, then I believe we can get back to 3-4% and beyond.
Yeah, but Harry, so we actually discussed this last week, but not in a lot of details. And no sooner did we discuss it, sort of get hit in the face with it, and that was the geopolitical risks. And
yes.
And the markets, you have this ongoing chaos. It seems that's coming out of Washington. It's obviously, one, disappointing, and two, very discomforting, but not totally unexpected, by the markets. But the problem, you think about the run up to the election, the results of the election, the performance of the equity markets, not only that night, that incredible turnaround, but then, what took place after that, the pro-growth Trump trade, as it was identified, unfortunately, because of all the angst, and it's like you're sort of dragging that anchor with you all day long.
Well, Chuck, the naming of a special counsel, the markets interpreted that meant that many of the things the president wants to do might be in jeopardy, and because of the way that the markets are ahead of what's actually happening, they had baked it in. So there was a price to pay for that news cycle. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I try to follow it, but I sort of live with the Malamut doctrine of, not day to day, second to second. Didn't it come back after
Well, it
that?
did. So this is pretty interesting. I think that announcement actually, Harry, came towards the end of the week.
Correct.
And the firing of Comey, and then subsequent to that, I think it was Tuesday actually that we had that Wednesday we had that really difficult day, and the market the days after that were up day in and day out. So what happened was, for the week itself, the S&P was down 0.3%. And the pullback, it actually was on Wednesday of last week, Harry. It was the largest one-day decline that we saw since last September. So, and from what I've read and listened to and watched, sometimes the market needs an excuse, to unwind positions to sell. And I think this was
grabbed
taken,
onto something.
And I think this was taken as an excuse. And if you think about it, it was I don't want to call it a one-day phenomenon, but it happened in one day, and then it gave traders and technicians the ability to get out of positions that they thought might have been overpriced, so to speak, and it gave them an opportunity shortly thereafter, to go in and add to positions. And I think Harry, you had that back and fill process, and that's what we saw as we got to Thursday, Friday, yesterday, and believe it or not, I sat there last night watching, in total disbelief as to what was happening in Manchester, and my immediate gut reaction was, this is going to, and I said it to my wife, said, Pam, this could be a challenging day, meaning Tuesday in the markets, and lo and behold, the market shrugged it off. The S&P futures, the Dow futures are all up as of the last time I looked, about 15 minutes ago. So, I think you kind of said it several months ago, was, the market has readjusted itself to the fact that, we will have ongoing terrorism, and it's now more of a news cycle event. And it's something that I don't want to say we have gotten accustomed to, or was something we are living through in our day-to-day life, but it's something that is, and I don't want to use the word accepted, because that's not, Harry,
Well, I know what you're saying. The markets no longer are treating these events as extraordinary. They're treating them as normal. And that's a terrible statement, but what other answer can you give for when they would blow up, markets would change? I will say this, the naming of a special counsel in eras gone by would have resulted in a more precipitous drop than the very small, hiccup that we saw that was promptly corrected. Everything's different now, Chuck.
Yeah. So Harry, so let's take a step back here and kind of try to understand what happened. So, when you look at it last week, it was very quiet economically speaking. There were not a lot of reports that came. So, investors focused a lot of their efforts on the firing of Comey and then the ongoing investigations into the Trump administration. So, again, that pro-growth policy is now being questioned, and can in fact Trump and his administration get those initiatives in place? Healthcare, tax, the alleged tax cuts, Harry, regulatory budget changes, everything that's on the table now, unfortunately, seems to be taking a lot longer than everyone had anticipated.
And at some point, do you think that there'll be a price to pay for that? Thus far, it hasn't really been a problem.
I think, Harry, the fact of the matter is, if you take a look, the market is focused for the most part on earnings. Most of the S&P, I think 85 to 90% of the S&P 500 companies have reported. And during the first quarter and going into the second quarter, we're pretty much of the belief that earnings will continue to remain on that, that trajectory growth that we saw in the first quarter to remain strong. So think about this from the perspective, and people say, well, how could the market be where it is now? I mean, everything that's going on in Washington, they can't get anything done. The negative press, the bias that is being shown, in favor of the Democrats. But something, the markets really, Harry, I don't think for the most part care.
It seems it. I mean, that sounds that is absolutely has to be true, because it's counter. Look at the news cycles have been horrifically negative, but the results have been very, very positive. Chuck, we're late for our first break. We're going to come right back. If there's more on corporate earnings, Chuck will cover that. He's going to cover capital spending. There was a touch earlier in the program where Chuck mentioned geopolitical risks, volatility. If there's more, we'll talk more about that. Equities, are they still looking good? We'll get all of this and more in as we continue with our official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck and his team, the Malamut Group, 609-383-2010. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
Each and every weekday, WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is giving you not one, but two chances to win $1,000.
Money!
Win cash with Harry Hurley's 2K a Day giveaway. When Harry announces the winning keyword, go to WPGTalkRadio.com, enter the code, and you could win $1,000. Your next chance to win $1,000 is coming up this afternoon at 5:30 with WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
That's my America. That's my America.
Hi, this is Stacy Lilliston. Come drive and discover during the Memorial Day sales event at Lilliston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We have $199 a month lease offers on 3 of our most popular models, including America's longest lasting pickups. Lease a 2017 Ram 1500 Quad Cab 4x4 for just $199 a month. Or a 2017 Jeep Cherokee Limited 4x4, only $199 a month. Or a brand new 2017 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4. You guessed it, $199 a month. It's the Memorial Day sales event, and your new vehicle is waiting.
36-month, 10,000-mile per year lease includes all cost to consumer except $1,790 due on Ram and tax, tags, bank, and dock fees. All applicable rebates with approved credit through Chrysler Capital ends 5/31.
Napa know-how.
That's not heavy metal music or the sound of a stray cat fight. It's your car's not-so-subtle way of saying, head to Napa for new brake pads and rotors and get up to a $50 rebate by mail. So don't confuse for anything other than new brakes and $50 back by mail. That's Napa Know-How.
Napa know-how.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 5/31/17.
Ransomware is software that can infiltrate your business through email, enabling cyber criminals to hijack sensitive information as ransom for your own data's release. Leveraging Barracuda email security with advanced threat detection can stop a ransomware attack in its tracks. As an added measure, Barracuda Backup allows you to recover your data without having to surrender to extortion. Crime doesn't pay when you protect your business data with Barracuda. Go to barracuda.com/ransomware to learn more.
At Ocean First Bank, our first thought is you. We put you first in all we do. Community banking for a century. We treat you like your family. Whatever you need, whatever you dream, let's make it a reality. Ocean First Bank, putting you first.
When your dream is building a new home, we offer mortgage options designed with your convenience in mind, like combining your construction and permanent loan into just one closing, saving you time for the really fun stuff, like planning that housewarming party.
Whatever you need,
it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the mayor of the morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
Hey, thanks very much. 25 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor, is here. Chuck, in terms of where we were going.
Yeah, so let's earnings. So
earnings.
So Harry, let's put this in perspective for a second. First quarter earnings posted the best results that we have seen in 22 quarters. 22 quarters. So you're pretty good in math. How many years are we talking about?
Every 4 divided by 20.
So you got five and a half years?
Yeah.
Okay. And earnings grew by 14% during the quarter. Revenues rose 8% for the quarter, and profit margins expanded significantly year over year. So,
and how are people doing bottom line versus top line?
Excellent.
Well,
so now
this is a good story.
So and that's what you're seeing. That's sort of the run-up that we had with the equity markets. Now, the equity markets goes through this back and fill process. I mean, if you're going to make higher highs, you need to have days like we had last Wednesday. You have to be able to sort of have those mini sell-offs, and the market, goes through, like I said, that back and fill process. It sort of wrings out the weaker hands and the weaker equity, so to speak. And then as a result of that, the market has a tendency to move higher. So as we get through this year, Harry, we expect earnings to increase about 10% year over year, and we expect revenues to be up mid-single digits and margins to expand modestly. So with having put that all in place, and you think about, I don't know how many times did we come on this show and we talked about missing the top line, getting the bottom line, job cuts, additional cuts in expenditures as well. It seemed like it was a broken record. Mm-hmm. And you get to the point where these companies keep wringing out at their expenses. It's like Harry taking that wet towel and just constantly wringing it out, getting the water out of the towel. I mean, how often can you do that? Eventually the towel gets dry. And I think when you look at what, that was sort of the trend line that we were on. And now all of a sudden, what has happened, and it just wasn't Q1, Harry, it was Q4 of last year, it was Q3 of last year. We're starting to see, obviously some very, very positive signs within not only our economy, Harry, but we were starting to see, again, some good things happen overseas as well. So, for economic growth to remain on track, the earnings expectations that we just chatted about, that has to happen. So, over the last couple of weeks, some of the data points that we've seen have softened somewhat, but we do expect growth, to accelerate somewhat modestly over the next year. So that's, if you're an equity investor, that's obviously good news. Now, we talked a little bit about, you sort of queued it up before we got to the break about capital spending. So we do expect, capital spending levels to increase. The technology sector, as we know it, is now taking on more capital spending, and I think we're going to see more broadening beyond that in different industries and sectors within those industries as we sort of go forward into the remainder of 2017.
Chuck, in terms of capital spending, what can you say about that?
Well, I mean, like I said, the tech sector, there's been a lot going on there, and then we're going to see it, I think, sort of bleed over into other industries because, if you're able to get the right technology in place to help reduce your expenditures, that's going to obviously help, companies be able to spend money in other directions.
What about the Fed selling this 5 point some odd trillion and the impact that will have, because that puts that money back? This is not much different than trillions that may be overseas doing us no good right now, that if you bring that back, to America, could be put to work. What do you we talked about that about a week ago.
We did, and if you take a look at the 10-year, for instance, I think that's the best barometer right now. It's incredible that when you and I come back in our second lives, we should become an analyst, because I mean, you think about it, everybody, not everybody, the great majority, had predicted as interest rates on the short end of the curve increased that you would get an increase in rates with a 10-year. And it's just the opposite has happened. I mean, we are right now slightly over like that 222 level.
Is there an explanation for what you almost always know will occur? It's like if you throw a ball up in the air, you know it's eventually going to come back down. But this was counterintuitive. It went, I don't want to use the term contrarian, but it went opposite of what everybody would normally think.
Well, Harry, I think what is happening now, if you look at the yield curve, it's becoming, it typically slopes where the shorter rates, at the bottom left of the curve, so to speak, and then longer rates are on the top right. It sort of goes up on I don't want to say like a 45, but it's sort of, or 9, it sort of like angles up. Mm-hmm. And then as you get to like the 20, 30-year maturities, it doesn't slope anymore. Now, what we're seeing is that the yield curve is continuing to flatten out, and where your short rates are, pretty much in line with your intermediate term and your longer term rates. Most investors would say, well, buy me the short end of the curve because I'm thinking that rates are going to go higher on the short end. But, if you think about, what is happening with the Fed of late, we're not quite certain that's going to happen. And the biggest fear that we have is the curve becomes inverted, where your short rates are higher than your long rates. And then, unfortunately, historically, what that has proven out to be is that you have a recession on the horizon.
We'll do it after the break. We'll get our bottom of the hour break in. It's 32 minutes past the hour. What would cause something? And again, who would invest in a longer term instrument when you can get a higher yield in a shorter term? Who would it totally paralyzes the longer term investment, because it would make no sense to earn less for a longer period of time than you can in if a 6-month CD is better than something that you would put out several years to 10 years. That's what people are going to do. And I sort of understand, as bad as I was in that realm, why that makes more sense than at first glance it seems to. It's not good. It's sort of an unnatural order to things. 33 minutes past the hour, Chuck Malamut continues, our official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. 609-383-2010 to reach the Malamut Group for all of your financial planning needs.
The sun is out and the wait is over. Hot summer fun is coming to Resorts Casino Hotel. Friday, May 26th at 5 p.m. Join us as we kick off the summer by dropping 5,000 beach balls on the boardwalk. Then cool off with some frozen drinks at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville or grab a bite on the beach at Landshark Bar and Grill. And wrap up the weekend with the BMW X1 sweepstakes. Fill your summer with exciting events, entertainment, and daily specials during hot summer fun at Resorts. Visit resortsac.com/HSF for more info. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Brought to you by Attorney Tax. If you're in trouble with the IRS and owe at least $10,000 in back taxes, listen to this important public announcement. The IRS is now offering a special program called the Fresh Start Initiative, which can offer significantly reduced settlements that can reduce your liability by thousands of dollars. These unique programs have been allocated to help the economy and substantially reduce or eliminate your tax burden. If you're approved and qualified, the IRS will stop the collections against you. Don't feel overwhelmed. Please call the Consumer Hotline to see if you qualify. 800-436-6263. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS, you may qualify for substantial relief and even forgiveness. See if you qualify and get the help you need by calling the Consumer Hotline. 800-436-6263. That's 800-436-6263. 800-436-6263. 63.
Hi, this is Ron Rossi, and have you heard about the new lower price on the 2017 Honda Accord LX 4-door? Now at Rossi Honda, you can get a Honda Accord for only $99 a month. And if you're buying, 0% APR is available. And don't forget, up to 5 years and 60,000 miles of free oil changes are included. At Rossi Honda, we treat you better, period, for less, on Delsey Drive in Vineland.
$29.95 down, tax tags, doc fees extra, 36-month lease, 12,000 miles per year to qualified buyers. See dealer for details.
Hi, I'm Ron Rossi, and during our May sale, you can lease a 2017 Honda HR-V LX 4-door for only $149 per month, or a 2017 Honda Fit 4-door for only $125 per month. Included up to 5 years and 60,000 miles of free oil changes on all new 2017 Hondas. At Rossi Honda, we treat you better, period, for less, on Delsey Drive in Vineland.
$29.95 down, tax tags, doc fees extra, 36-month lease, 12,000 miles per year to qualified buyers. See dealer for details.
Men, if you're like me, you appreciate the feeling of a clean, smooth shave from a quality blade. The sort of shave that cuts clean, without the burn. So why are you messing around with generic razors that cost $32 for an 8-pack, when you can shave with Harry's high-quality German-engineered blades for half the price? And if saving money and a clean shave isn't incentive enough, Harry's will give you their starter set, complete with a razor, 3 of their world-famous blades, and shaving cream for just $15. And shipping is always free. We'll also give you $5 off your first order. Our way of saying thank you for trying us. How are we able to save you all this money and still give you the best shave you'll ever enjoy? By owning the factory that manufactures them. That's how. So go to harrys.com right now and enter code 2323 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 2323.
Get free, unlimited South Jersey news at WPGTalkRadio.com. This is Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1 FM and 1450 AM, South Jersey's talk station.
37 minutes past the hour. We have 8 minutes left with Chuck. Let's make it count.
So, Harry, to answer, I'm going to sort of jump on what you just said as we got to the break. Why would you buy a 7 or 10 year intermediate term bond with a coupon that's slightly higher than the 6-month certificate? I think that's how you kind of put it out there, right? Think about it from this perspective. Let's go back to the last cycle that we had, where a lot of people were rolling relatively short-term instruments, and they rolled them and they rolled them and they rolled them. And guess what happened? The Fed went the other way, which they will do, and they cut rates. And they cut rates significantly to the point where what were you yielding in your money market savings accounts? Virtually nothing. And what were you yielding on a 3 and 6 month piece of paper? Virtually nothing, correct? Mm-hmm. 50 basis points maybe? Yeah. So now imagine for a minute, if you said, look, I want to buy a piece of paper that is investment grade, it's got to be triple B plus or better on both sides, S&P, Fitch, and Moody's or whatever, and, from a good quality company, and there's a lot of them out there, and I want to be guaranteed I get my income stream, 3.5, 3 3/4, whatever it may be, right now, for the next 7 or 10 years. I mean, what is so wrong with that? But, And so what happens is you get trapped. You say, well, let me buy the short maturity, and you buy the short maturity, and it seems like you made a good decision, and then lo and behold, eventually it's not going to work out for you. You're going to be faced with rates that decline. They don't necessarily increase. Now, you think about everything that's going on with the equity markets, everything that's going on with Washington. You have a lot of these, distractions. I guess that's probably the best word that we can use coming out of Washington. And don't be at all surprised if it forces the Fed to take more of a gradual approach with their thought process with respect to interest rate hikes versus just continuing, jamming them every other meeting. Now, there is the last time I saw Harry, Fed meeting in June, there's an 80% probability they're going to move rates 25. Well, they're going to remove rates. They don't. We're assuming 25 basis points. That has been the norm. I mean, it's been a long time since we have seen rates move 50 basis points. So I think that's sort of baked into the cake here as well, where, the market understands it. And in spite of all of that, as companies continue to produce revenue and earnings, I think that's obviously really good to move the market further here. We unfortunately, Harry, we do have to pay attention to what goes on because you can't get in Washington, because you can't get out of the way. A lot of our clients, question it, and they become very, very anxious about it. And I think the best way to describe it, and somebody said this to me several months ago, what we are witnessing right now, it's sort of like the media has taken all the air out of the room, where you become suffocated from everything that's coming out of Washington. So you have to kind of get beyond that point and understand, if you are an investor on a long-term basis, why you have your money at work. I mean, and once you can get through that, I think it makes a lot more sense. But, like I said, maybe a few minutes ago, it was pretty interesting that yesterday was very, very quiet on the news front.
Because the president
was traveling,
is away. Yeah.
So it was actually, it was a great day because we and our clients did not get distracted by what was coming out of Washington. Now today's going to be a little bit different because of what was released last night. So we think investors obviously focus, Harry, on politics, maybe a little too much, but if the fundamentals stay in place,
I want to agree with the whole concept. This is amazing, but yet to me, it's my lane, so I get it. The politics means so much. When we're in such a hyper negative environment, how have the markets had such discipline?
So I think, Harry, if I heard this correctly, 80% of the news flow that has come out has been negative.
And that was a liberal study that admitted it. Yeah, it's actually higher.
So what happens is, Trump and Washington, tend to get too much credit when things go right. And on the flip side, they take on too much blame when things do not go the right way. So, the recent consolidation phase that we have seen in equities, which is actually good, is more due to the economic data that we've seen, because the data has, been a little soft and somewhat stalled versus the declining political confidence. And if that is in fact the case, which we believe it is, you're going to see, Harry, I think the equity markets, if the fundamentals are there, you're going to find that we're going to have a decent year in 2017. You kind of put it in perspective. I mean, where are we going into yesterday? I mean, the S&P, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ. S&P was up year to date over 7%. The Dow was up over 6%, and the NASDAQ, the clear winner, up 16 plus. And then you've seen emerging markets do even better. So investors, if they take their eye off the ball with the news flow coming out of Washington, they focus on fundamentals. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have Harry, just an upward movement. But what will happen is you will go through that back and fill process, and I think you'll have opportunities if you're sitting on the sideline to get money to work.
For all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck, the Malamut Group, Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. It's a full-service, comprehensive team that will help you with every aspect of your financial planning, which means everything. That means college building, vacation planning, retirement planning. I mean, you name it. Sit down with Chuck and his team. You'll be in the best of hands. Tell them I sent you early in the morning. 609-383-2010. As we say goodbye to you, Chuck, let me just let our listeners know that very, very sad. I mentioned 22 had passed away. But that I expected that it would probably grow, and it has grown to 23. An 8-year-old boy has now died as a result of this cowardly, mindless, sick terrorist act in Manchester, New England, or England rather. Horrible news. So the death toll is now 23, injured 58, and 12 of the known dead at this point are under the age of 16. What an absolute tragedy. All of us as parents, Chuck, can appreciate. Marley's gone to concerts, right?
Absolutely.
My children love concerts and things. This is what the terrorist enemy is trying to do. They're trying to make it in England, all free, civilized societies, that you're afraid to even go to a movie or to a concert. It is just such terrible news and heartbreaking, truly heartbreaking. We're going to take a brief time out. When we come back, Paul Rotella is going to shed some light on an annual award, if you want to call it an award, or recognition that is bestowed upon 100 people. And he's going to share some thoughts on what it means. We just teased it a little bit with Assemblyman Kirk Conover an hour or so ago. Paul's going to comment on it next. And then we have Dr. Bob scheduled from the second Tuesday while I was away to today's fourth Tuesday. On behalf of Chuck Malamut, we'll reconvene 1 week from today in the 8 o'clock hour. Thank you, Chuck. Good stuff.
Thanks, Harry.
You got it, buddy.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
Did you know that ACUA has its own public community gardens? Here to tell us about it is ACUA President Rick Dovey. So it's only $15 a season to rent space?
Yeah, a very minimal cost. It's really an investment. So if somebody can dedicate themselves to growing their own produce and vegetables during the summer, we have all the facilities here. We have the irrigation, the water, and the tools that you can take care of your own plot. And if you don't have room at home at where you live, this is perfect.
Where can people find out more about it?
ACUA.com.
Great way to get your own organic produce. Thanks so much, Rick Dovey of the ACUA. And I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
Bob Vidin of Bob's Little Sports Shop.
I have heard the children crying and gunfire in the night. Freedom seems so far away, but still the people fight. Freedom is a fragile gift that has a heavy price. Battles won and battles lost, and many gave their life. What some men take for granted, others never see. Speak their mind and have no fear and live a life that's free. This happened in a foreign land not so long ago. Freedom is the greatest gift that people ever know. To safeguard all our liberties and keep our country free, it is not up to the government, it's up to you and me.
Bob's Little Sports Shop, the place for New Jersey and Pennsylvania hunting licenses. Check out their inventory of top-name pistols, shotguns, rifles, bows, and crossbows. Test your marksmanship in their archery range and 25-yard pistol range. Bob's Little Sports Shop, 316 North Delsey Drive in Glassboro, and on the web at bobslittle.sportshop.com. Hit your target with Bob's Little Sports Shop.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and from one mayor to another, you're listening to my friend Harry Hurley, the mayor of the morning.
Hurley in the morning. Joining the program is Brother Paul Rotella. We're at 48 minutes past the hour. Tomorrow morning in the full 8 o'clock hour, and we're going to have a great program with Michael Harrison. We'll talk a little bit about the Heavy 100, a little bit because I'm extremely honored and grateful for the recognition because, you know, there's only 100 slots and there's 50 states. Unless you're Obama, then there's 57. I guess it would be the Heavy 110 or something in Obama's world. But it's the Heavy 100. And when you look at that, many of them are like Limbaugh and Hannity and Levin and so on, you know, maybe there's a handful. So we're extremely honored to be on it. And I want to thank Michael Harrison tomorrow, but we're also going to be talking about his truly iconic event, which this will be our third consecutive year attending. And not only will we be there, but we do have a speaking role as a moderator of one of the important fireside chats. And I'll be interviewing briefly. It's about a 10-minute type fireside chat. Dan Mason, former CBS senior honcho, and the chairman of the Broadcasters Foundation of America, and his pedigree is unbelievable. He has a career in sports announcing and, PA announcing. I can't wait for our fireside chat. It's going to be great, and we will be presenting to Dan a $1,000 grant from the Hurley in the Morning charity for the Broadcasters Foundation of America. And this is such a relevant not-for-profit because just like in all realms of life, broadcasters go down with illness, with injury, just maybe, some kind of unnamed, unspecified type of situation where their income would be gone. And the Broadcasters Foundation of America does a great job in helping broadcasters, much like what the Hollywood Actors Guild and some of the other organizations do for their own. People don't talk about it a lot, but there's some of their views are very, very twisted, but I have to say they're very good to their own. There's a place that actors can retire and live with dignity and have food, clothing, shelter. I mean, there's some, really good things even in the midst of a twisted community. But the annual process, and I don't even know how they do it, to be honest with you. I know the words, but how do you narrow down a universe of, many, many thousands, into 100? And it was a list that I looked at for 24 consecutive years before my name appeared on it, and thinking that my name would never appear on it. And then it suddenly did. And then it did again. And then, bless yesterday, that it did again. And Paul's going to join us now and share his perspective. Paul Rotella, good morning, my brother.
Good morning. Congratulations, Harry. Once again, I'm just so proud of you, WPG, and our great New Jersey radio family. Harry, you being on this list, you were starting to talk about it, but just our friends are out there listening. There's over 56 or 5,700 AM stations with local hosts. And it's very rare that a local host on one station is singled out. In fact, I got to look at that list close. I don't think there are any. But let's assume there might be one or two. When you think of this award, not being number 100, which you were, not being number 70, which you were, but to go down to number 60 in really just 2 years, almost at that top half. By the way, my prediction was 58.
I do know that. Yes, I do.
But to go there, Harry, what it speaks of is what local radio is all about. I think you caught Mike's eye because of the way you jumped into the crisis here in Atlantic City a couple of years back. And you started bringing on local dignitaries and having interaction with them that, often you'd have 4 or 5 or 6 of the stakeholders on your show at once. But what you were doing was you were informing, as only local radio can do. You were informing your listeners, your neighbors, the constituents, the people who are most important in your community of what's going on. And because you have a no-holds-barred approach to interviewing, you didn't settle for pat answers. You kept digging. You found that information. You have uncovered scandals, revealed liars, and also brought a lot of hope, I think, too, to the area. So for Michael Harrison to select you, it's not surprising to me, but I think the audience should recognize that this honor is reserved only for those talk show hosts who make a difference, ergo the heavy 100. So, Harry, I'm just so proud of you. Congratulations. Yesterday we were biting our nails. I think you and I were texting back and forth. Have you heard anything of what's going on? Because when this comes out, this reveal is a closely guarded secret. And even though Michael's a dear friend of mine, he wouldn't let me know if you made the list, if you went up, you went down. He wouldn't let me know to the very last second. And I think he let me know after it was revealed. But getting your note was just so gratifying, and so I'm so happy. Congratulations to you and the WPG family, everyone at Town Square, and your family, of course, must be very proud of you, Harry.
Paul, thank you for that. And, thanks always for your support as our champion in terms of lobbying and everything that you do on a day-to-day basis, not just when you're in our nation's capital speaking before the FCC or before members of Congress or whatever, needs to be done. And even with Ajit Pai and a much more, I think, friendly, if you will, FCC to the broadcasting industry. There are always things, Paul, to be keeping a watchful eye on, aren't there?
Well, yeah, and actually, I have the good fortune to be in Atlantic City right now. I got here last night. I'm here with my chief executive assistant and bodyguard, my son Billy, who is at Amherst, as you know, and he's making sure nobody messes with me while I'm down here. He's the muscle in the family, Harry.
I love it.
But
you're in
we're
good
actually
hands.
Leaving. Oh yeah, as soon as I hang up the phone, we're leaving for Washington D.C. We've got meetings this afternoon, all day tomorrow into the night on the Hill, and we'll be meeting with our legislators. I'm hoping to stop by and say hi to Congressman Frank Lobiando as well. And talking about things that are important to the broadcast industry. And you're right, Ajit Pai has done so much good stuff for broadcasting. I'm proud to say he's a friend, as well as all the commissioners. I got to say, the New Jersey Broadcaster Association enjoys a great relationship with everybody, as we say, up on the 8th floor of the SEC building. That's where the commissioners are, and with our legislators. But there are some issues that still hang around, like the performance tax and things we're working on, that are really going to be, I think it's going to be real challenging this year. So we have to remain vigilant. And also, Harry, I've been having some high-level meetings here in Atlantic City because I can break a little news. I think I mentioned it before to you when I was on the phone, but we've got confirmation now. I've been trying to get American Ninja Warrior to Atlantic City. I think it would be great on the beach. I'd love to see it right in front of the Tropicana, where all those signs and the beautiful renovation they've done here. And we were thinking, you might, when you get their attention, it might take 2 or 3 years before they even come and look at you. I know it took 4 years for one city to get them. Well, the producers told me they're going to be looking at Atlantic City next year, possibly for 18. So I'm working hard on that, and whether we get it or not, it's just nice that they're looking at Atlantic City again, and it shows that we're on an upswing.
Paul, that's a show, as you know, that's a show that I've never missed an episode. Even when they're doing the international things, they're doing some kind of fundraising one that's coming up in the next week or so. I love the sport. I've interviewed actually some of the Ninja Warriors. It is a great community, and when you bring something like that to your community, you bring the entire apparatus, you bring families, you bring fanaticism, you bring economies. I mean, it would be fantastic for Atlantic City.
Well, and Harry, this also speaks to what you're doing, because if it wasn't for the support I get from you, from Town Square, from all of my broadcasters, I wouldn't have the bully pulpit, if you will. I wouldn't have the platform to make the phone calls, to talk to the producers, to get NBC looking at us, and to even consider it here, and to jump some of the competition, if you will. So I appreciate that. And when you have someone who's in the heavy 100, who's one of who actually is one of my you're one of my substitute hosts for the next 365 days.
Correct.
Having you,
I do this for 364 days so that you can have your show for the one and only 365th.
So you see, I know the audience is in good hands.
Yeah.
But seriously, it is an incredible honor. And you're going to have Mike Harrison on tomorrow, who is one of the most wonderful guys in radio, a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, and yours.
Paul, I have to say this, and I feel the same about you, but I love doing radio with Michael. He's a prince among men. He's a beautiful person. He unconditionally loves our industry. He gets every nuance, every aspect of it. He's so interesting. And I'll tell you what, he's always ahead of the curve. You go look at his writings from 5, 10, 15, 20 and more years ago, the things that he said would be coming next. Now this whole concept, and Paul, I want to thank you for always being there with me when we go to Talkers New York, and you're doing it again this year, because that's just like a highlight of our broadcast year. It's amazing to see everybody from Hannity last year, God rest his soul, Alan Combs. Hey, did we think that would be the last time? I'm glad I took my picture with Alan. You think that's the last time we ever thought we'd see Alan, Paul?
No, let's face it, life is precious.
Yeah, you never know. So I'm really happy that in Brotherhood we will be there again. But I love to do an hour with Michael when we did as we've done several times, over the past 3, 4 or so years. He's just great. He's great to be around, and he's uplifting. His concept of talk radio, a new era, is going to be very, very exciting at Talkers 2017.
Yeah, and he loves Harry Hurley. You know that. So I'm looking forward to that. But Harry, most of all, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. That's going to be a great hour. Anybody who loves or appreciates broadcast radio, you got to tune in at 8 o'clock tomorrow, because it's a real treat to have a whole hour with that man. And I'll be in Washington, but I'll be listening on Radio Pup. So just so you know, we'll be with you in spirit, old buddy, and we'll be fighting the good fight in D.C. Starting this afternoon.
Thank you, Paul. To you and your executive protection detail, have a safe trip to our nation's
Thanks,
capital.
Harry.
See you soon.
Congratulations,
Thank
buddy.
you, Paul. Thanks.
See you then.
Be well. When we come back, Dr. Bob Zlotnick making a house call. Yes, a doctor that still makes house calls on Hurley in the Morning. His program titled Under the Influence is next, and we rescheduled it from the second Tuesday while I was away to today. We'll be coming back with Dr. Bob in just a few minutes. Stay with us. Fourth quarter, Hurley in the Morning on WPG begins now. Don't forget Brian Kilmeade right after we sign off.
104.1 WPGG Atlantic City, WSJO 104.9 HD2 Egg Harbor City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Dave Anthony. ISIS takes credit for the British concert attack, calling the bomber a soldier of the caliphate. President Trump calls the terrorists
evil losers in life.
He says their hateful ideology must be obliterated.
We must drive out the terrorists and the extremists from our midst.
Now, the president wants civilized nations to unite.
The police and security services believe they know the identity of the perpetrator.